Amazing thing on Lower Hat was the huge hatches we used to have here because of the extensive aquatic growth, and we had the tricos and everything else coming off and the PMDs, and it was incredible.
There were 16 fishable hatches during my prime time.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
From the big Terra Narcissus to the tiny Trico.
Yeah, from Tricos to Terra Narcissus.
Everything you wanted, yeah.
Who knows what it is now?
Yeah.
Certainly.
I think it's sadly reduced.
Sadly reduced with
it's
the reduction in the vegetation.
Yeah, but there would be anglers coming from all over the world to fish this place.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. Not just California, not just Northern California.
It went on for 25 years to 30 years probably.
As well renowned and well revered as any spring creek in the western United States for sure. Yeah, iconic in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Andrew Bra, and I am California Trout's Hat Creek Project Manager. California Trout recently applied for grant funding to restore Hat Creek to its former self. Specifically, we're going to try to increase wild trout populations, try to increase macroinvertebrate diversity and abundance, and we're going to try to get aquatic vegetation to start regrowing again. California Trout is currently working on a restoration design for Hat Creek, and we have a few key partners that are sitting at the table with us, which include PG&E, the UC Davis Center for Watershed Sciences, and the California Department of Fish and Game.
I'm standing here with Carson Jeffries and Roger Bloom from the Department of Fish and Game. We're having a discussion about the potential for restoring the wild trout area of Hat Creek.
I think the keys to restoration are first understanding what the problems are that are in the river, as far as what's causing those problems and identifying. We know that there's not a lot of vegetation, there's been a sediment problem in the river, and that identifying those problems, the causes of those problems, and then addressing them in management over time.
Hat Creek currently suffers from a few key problems. Probably the first and foremost is sediment supply issues. 50 to 80,000 tons of fine sediment. Here's our prime culprit. Sediment supply issues have definitely had an impact on aquatic vegetation and macroinvertebrate abundance in Hat Creek. One of the common misconceptions people have about Hat Creek is that the sediment came from either the Flume Road washout or PG&E flow diversions. Neither one of those are really true. Most likely, the 50 to 80,000 tons of sediment that we find in the wild trout area right now originated in sinkholes that have hydrologic connectivity to Baum Lake. What we're actually seeing is a tail end to the sediment slug that's been moving through this system since the late 80s, early 90s. And what that tells us is that dredging, for instance, might not be the best solution. We're also starting to see aquatic vegetation regrow at the tail end of that sediment slug, which means to us that with a little help, we might be able to get Hat Creek back on track. Another key issue, as you can see behind me, is a lack of in-stream habitat. You can see not a lot of cover on the banks. Aquatic vegetation has really been struggling over the last couple of years, and invasive muskrat populations continue to erode the banks. In that restoration design, we're proposing to replant 6.3 acres of riparian corridor with native vegetation, including willows and alders. Another key component to our restoration design is to place large woody debris back in the river to mimic falling trees, which we hope would create in-stream habitat for fish and wildlife and also stabilize vegetation. When it comes to creating habitat for fish, bugs, and plants, you can't get much better than this right here. This is a great example of large woody debris. And one thing that you notice in Hat Creek is that wherever large woody debris exists like this, you'll definitely see fish feeding and being active. Hat Creek has definitely fallen on hard times, and California Trout is committed to reversing current trends. The good news, however, is that juvenile recruitment appears to be good. The river is flushing sediment naturally the way that it should, and we are starting to see some aquatic vegetation regrow at the tail end of that sediment slug. So we're hopeful with a little help we can get the river back on track.